Thank you very much to once again to welcome you to Maths Zone African Motives, whereby we are going to talk about business studies grade 12. We are on business studies grade 12, term 4, preparation, wherever we are trying to make revisions on uh, business studies paper 1. We are on business studies paper 1. Paper 1. So this is whereby we are trying to prepare ourselves for the upcoming exams that are going to take place in November. So let us move on. So as we can see that this is in relation to grade 12 business studies, grade 12, and it is what? Paper 1. So this is a paper that was written in November 2024. So let us use this paper as to prepare for upcoming exams for term 4, November 2025. So the marks that we allocated are 50, and the duration is what? 2 hours that you are to spend on this question paper as a whole. So that is that. Now let us move on to the instructions now. Let us move on to the instructions. So here are our instructions. As you know, instructions are very, very important, that you have to go through them before you can attend any question, because they are going to help you to as well make sure that you're going to answer the questions according to what are the expectations. So the instructions read as follows. Read the following instructions carefully before answering the questions. Before answering the question, before you can go to any question, make sure that you are going to go through what? The instructions. This question paper consists of 3 sections and covers 2 main topics. So section A is compulsory, meaning you are to attend it, whether you like it or not. Make sure that you are not going to write the paper without attending to section A. Section B consists of 3 questions, and you are to answer any 2 of the 3 questions in this section, even though as we are going to attend to them, all of them. 3 of them we are going to do them is to prepare ourselves for the upcoming sitting in November. Section C, which we are going to do it later on, consists of 2 questions. You know very well when we're talking about section C, we are talking about what? The essay question. We are talking about the essay questions. So we are going to do it. We are going to attend it later on. We are first going to focus on section A as well as what? Section B. Then later on we'll do what? Section C of the very same question paper. So in section C, you only answer what? You answer any one question of 2 questions. You're going to answer one. But like I've said, because as we are under the preparations, we are going to answer 2 of those questions. You know very well when you're talking about section C, we are talking about question 5 and question 6. So now let us move on. So the instruction number 2, read as follows. Read the instructions for each question carefully and take note of what is required. Very important. Read the instructions carefully so that you know very well what is required. Note that only answers to the first two questions selected in section B and answer to the first question in section C will be marked. So if you can do more than that, the others are not going to be marked. Only the first two in section B will be marked. And then here in section C, the answer to the first question will be selected in section is the one that will be marked. So also number the answers correctly according to the numbering system used in this question paper. That is very important. The numbering system is very important. You'll find that the student now is writing 2.11 and then write the next one 2.113. So, and then later on she or he writes what 2.12 after 2.113. You are not going to be awarded marks for that because you fail to use what? The numbering system of the question paper. So make sure that you're going to use that numbering system that is being used in this question paper. Very important to take note of that. So now we are moving on again. We are told in instruction 4, except where the instructions are given, answers must be written in full sentences. That is that. Use the mark allocation and nature of question to determine the length of the depth of an answer. Use the table below as a guide for mark and time allocation when answering the question. So here is the table, our table that we are told about. So let's move quickly on instruction number 7. Instruction number 7, begin the answer to each question on a new page. Question 1, new page. Question 2, new page. That is that. Clear? You may use non-programmable calculator. Write neatly and legible. Very important instruction, this one, instruction number 9. Because you may come up with right answers, but because of your horrible handwriting, you are going to lose marks. So make sure that you write neatly and legible so that the examiner will see what you'll be able to see your answers. Hope we are together. So now we are moving on to question 1 now. No, we are on question 1. Now we are on question 1. As you can see, this is our section A. Section A, which we're told that is compulsory, we are to attend to it. So section A, question 1. So without wasting time, let's quickly attend to it. 1.1. Various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter AD next to the question number 1.1 to 1.15. In the answer book, e.g. 1.16, that is the example that we are giving, D. So that is that. So now let's move on. Now we are to 1.1.1. So it says the Act prevents discrimination on the grounds of race, gender, and disability in the workplace. Remember, this is what? A multiple choice. So we are given 4 options. So we are to now come up with the correct answer out of the 4 options that we are given. So it says this act prevents discrimination. These acts prevent discrimination on the grounds of race, gender, disability in the workplace. So we want to know what the correct answer. So out of the 4 options, as you can see, the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. Employment Equity Act, EEA, or 1998, Act 55 of 1998. We know that if we said it prevents discrimination on the grounds of race, gender, as well as the disability in the workplace, it means now it talks about what? Equality. It talks about what? Equality. So everyone must be treated what? Equal, regardless of the race, gender, or disability. So the correct answer is B. So now let us move on to 1.1.2. So 1.1.2 reads as follows. The Nyman Traders is experiencing a high employee turnover. It is experiencing a high employment in turnover. So this is classified as an dash in the SWOT analysis. So, when you're talking about SWOT analysis, you're talking about strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So this SW, which is strength and weakness, they are found internally in the business. But opportunities and threats are found what? Externally in the business. Do affect or impact what? The business. So this one that we are told that we are talking about the high employee turnover. So the employees are found in the business. They are internal. They are internal. The employees are found internal. So it means now we want to know the correct answer, and the correct answer is A, weakness. If we have a high employee turnover, it means now the employees are not, they don't last in the organization. They always what? They just come and go. Meaning that our business now is failing to keep what? The employees. They are failing to keep the employees. They are failing to keep the employees. Maybe because of the environment not being conducive, environment not being safe to employees, or even failing to pay the employees a good package or a good salary. So they will always come and go. So it's a weakness to an organization. Hope we are together also on that point. So now we are moving on to 1.13. We are moving on to 1.13. It reads as follows. Mabasa Enterprise has dash control over suppliers who increase the price of their products. Mabasa Enterprise has dash control over suppliers who increase the price of their products. Suppliers are found out. They are external because they are directly outside what? The organization. They are not indirectly, but they are directly, they are found directly outside what? The business. So now we are given these options. So we want to know which one is correct. So do they have full control, no control, limited control, complete control? So they have what? Limited control. They cannot have full control because whatever negotiations that they can come up with to the suppliers, they might fail. So they don't have full control. But they can influence. They can have what? Influence. They have what? Limited, but they can influence. That is why it's limited. It's because they can influence what? The suppliers through negotiations that they can have with suppliers. Maybe to try by all means to negotiate the prices to go down. That is why we are saying it's limited. They can win through their influence, they can fail. So that is that. Now let us move on to 1.14, which reads as follows. The role of the interviewee, during an interview is to, we are given these four options. So the correct answer is D. We're talking about the role of the interviewee. So you know for sure we are talking about the candidate that is to be interviewed. We're talking about the candidate that is to be interviewed. So such candidate must make sure that he or she is going to ask clarity-seeking questions about the position so that he or she is going to know fully the requirements of the position. So that it will know fully the requirements of the position. So that is why he or she, during the interview, that is the chance the chance that he or she can ask what such questions. That is that. So now let us move on to 1.15. Now we are under 1.15, which read as follows as well. Business utilize machinery and equipment. They utilize machinery and equipment optimally in the function. Then we have to come up with what? A correct function. So they're talking about machinery as well as what? The equipment. They are talking about that. So it means now they are talking about where the production is taking place, because these are the machinery that and the equipments that they're going to make sure that they produce what, or they come up with a product. So it means now our correct answer is going to be B, because those machinery or equipments that they are used in the production department to come up with a product. Machinery are used in the production function or department so that we can have what? A product. So that is that. So now we are moving on to 1.2. Without wasting time, let us move on to 1.2. Let us move on to 1.2. Let us move on to 1.2. So here we are under our 1.2, which reads as follows. Complete the following statement by using the words provided in the list below. So the list that we are talking about is this one. Write only the words next to the question number 1.21 to 1.25 in the answer box. So these are the words that we are given or that are provided in the list. So we are going to use those words to complete the statements that are below. So 1.21 says dash has the right to embark on illegal strike as a remedy for the grievances. So we want to come up with the correct words to these ones that are given in the list. So the correct answer is what? An employee. The correct answer is employee. So the employee has a right to embark on legal, not illegal. Legal strike is a remedy to grievances. That is that. They are allowed, as much as it is a legal strike, they are allowed to lodge their complaints. If ever there is something that they are not satisfied with, they have that right to embark on a legal strike. 1.12, 1.22. Siswe Bakery applied dash integration strategy when they bought a wheat farm. So it means a wheat farm now is what? It's our supplier, because they supply us with what? With a wheat. They supply the business with what? With a wheat. So the Siswe Bakery is what? It's a business, it's an organization. So what do they apply if they integrate with what? With suppliers. So the correct answer there is what? It's a backward vertical strategy. That is this one. That is our correct answer. Backward vertical strategy. That is backward vertical. So when they buy or integrate with suppliers, that strategy is what? The backward vertical. But if they buy or integrate with distributions, that is a forward integration. But if they integrate with the business that is selling same or similar products, that is horizontal integration strategy. But here, because they are buying or integrating with the supplier, which is a wheat farm, then it is what? A backward vertical. So now we are moving on. So 1.23 now, which read as follows. Fassel Hairdressing Salon operates in the sector as they specialize in the selling of hairdress. So because of the service that they are providing, so the word that you're going to use there as a correct word in this list is what is a tertiary sector. It's a tertiary sector. Tertiary sector. Tertiary sector. So now let us move on to our 1.24. The employee's qualification and skills. Employee qualification and skills are matched with the requirements of the job. They are matched with the requirements of the job. The skills, the knowledges, the qualifications are going to be matched with what? The requirements of the job. They are going to match with what? The requirements of the job. So which is the correct word there? Is placement. That is a placement. So placement is the one that when we do it, we are going to look at the skills, qualification, experiences, and we match with the what the job requires. So that is called what? A placement procedure. Correct one is what? Placement procedure. So now we are to move on to 1.25 now. 1.25 talks about Muna Plastic continuously revise their processes to improve the quality of their products. So this is known as a dash in the step of what? PDCA. So when I'm talking about PDCA, we are talking about plan. If you can still remember, we are talking about do. We are talking about check, as well as what? Act. This is our PDCA. So we want to know this one whereby now Monoplastic refines their processes. They revise what? Their process to improve the quality of their products. They revise their processes. So then we want to know what is the correct answer from the given list. So the correct answer is what? Act. The correct answer is act. Why act? Because you know very for sure that act revise and adjust. Like as we are told now, we revise and what? And revise their processes to improve quality of their product. So with act, you revise and adjust based on the findings. So the correct answer is what? Act. So here we have to write what? Act from the given list above. So that is that. So now we are to move on to 1.3 without wasting time. Let us move on to 1.3. So as you can see, this is our 1.3, which says choose the description from column A, B. This is our description from column B. That matches term in column A. So this is our column A. These are the terms that we are given. So we want to know the descriptions here in column B that are going to match what? The terms in column A. Write only letter AG next to the question number 1.3 to 1.35 in the answer book. The example is given 1.36K. So let's quickly go to our machine question. 1.31 says learnership, talks about learnership. So we want to know the description that is going to match this term learnership. So you see, as you can see that E matches what? The learnership. Here is our E. And it says practical training opportunities that lead to recognized qualification. So in learnership, you are going to have what? A practical training where you are to to acquire the skill to do the immediate job. So the correct answer is E. Then we write what? E. 1.32 Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Disease Amended Act of 1997, Act 61 of 1997. So we are talking about what COEDA, if you can still remember the X now. So we want to know the description that matches this term. So the correct one is D. It's D because we know that with COEDA we are talking about what? The protection. We are talking about where we have what? A safe environment. The well-being of employees is very protected. So, like as it reads, provides protection to employees who become disabled due to workplace accident. So if employees find themselves with accident or they get accident while they are performing the duties at the workplace, so this is the act that is going to make sure that they are going to be compensated. So the D is correct answer. That is that. So now we are on recruitment now. Then we want to know recruitment now. So the correct answer with recruitment is what? The description that matches this term is A. Is A. That is a process of finding potential candidates for available vacancies. That is when by now you are trying to advertise what? The post. So the correct answer is A. Now coming to 1.34, quality. So with quality, now we want to know the description. As you can see, our J is the one that is correct. Why is it correct? Ensures that the finished products meet the required standard. So quality control is done, or that you can call it what? Investigation is done on a finished products. So it's done on a finished products. So we want to see whether our finished products meet the standard required. So our actual product versus a standard. So we are going to see if the finished product, which is now our actual product, do meet the required standard. So that is quality control. That is quality control. This quality control, and the answer is J. That is a correct answer. Now we come to 1.35, whereby it talks about adequate financing and the capacity. So we want to see the correct answer. So adequate financing. So as we can see here, the correct answer is I. Why I? They say large business can afford to put system in place to prevent defects in products. So they can be able to manage that because they have what? They have money, because they are the large business, meaning they can afford. They afford because of they are large business. So they have very good budgets that they can be able to prevent the defects in products before they can happen, because they are going to be able to put systems in place. So that is all about our 1.3. So the correct answer here, as we've said, is what? Is I. So now we have to move on to question 2, which is now section B. Now we have to move on to question B, which is section B. So on that question, we are asked to answer any 2 questions. But like we have said in the beginning, that we are going to attend to both question 2, 3, and 4, all of them, as to prepare us to be fit enough to sit for the November exams. So for us to be fit, let us make sure that we attempt both of those three questions. So the note here that you are given says clearly indicate the question number of each question that you choose. The answer to each question must start on a new page. Example, question 2 on a new page, question 3 on a new page. Hope now you are aware of that as it has been said time and again. So now let us come to question 2 and the business environment. It says name 2 types of diversification strategy. Name 2 types of what? Diversification strategy. So we have so many types of diversification strategy because we can talk about constrict diversification, horizontal diversification, conglomerate. There are 3, but now we are asked to mention how many? 2. So let's talk about constrict. Let's talk about concentric diversification. Concentric diversification. We can talk about horizontal diversification. Diversification. We can also talk about what conglomerate diversification. Conglomerate diversification. So these are our, so if you can refer back to that chapter of strategies, you can still remember when we're talking about concentric diversification. That is when we're talking about the business as new products or services that are related to existing product. Business here, they are adding what? New products that are related to existing products line. For example, we can talk about a car manufacturer starts producing motorbikes. You see, a motorbike is related to car manufacture. So remember that when you're talking about concentric diversification, that is where you add new products that are related. You add new products that are related to existing product. To existing products. You add new products that are related to existing products. So that is why I'm coming up with a new, that is why I'm coming up with an example of a car manufacturer producing motorbikes. So cars and motorbikes are related. But with horizontal diversification, you can still remember, this is whereby now the business introduce new products or services that are unrelated. Here they are related. Here they are related under constrict, but here they are unrelated. Take note of that. Here they are unrelated. We are saying the business introduces new products or services that are unrelated to the current products, but what is important? But are targeted at the same customers. They are unrelated, but they are targeted at the same customers. For example, a bakery also sells cold drinks. Bakery, as you know, we are talking about bread, or you're talking about fat cakes, we're talking about scones. That is what they do. But also they sell what? They sell drink. You see, those are 2 products that are unrelated, but are targeted at same customers. Because you can buy your scones, you can buy your bread, and then buy drink as well. You see, same customers can buy those 2 unrelated products. Hope we understand it is. But now we are having horizontal diversification. But with horizontal diversification, if you can still remember, we are saying the business expands into completely different industry. Here, the industry are completely different that are not related to its current operations. Example, a clothing company invests in a construction company. You see, those are two different industry. You see, and are not related in its current operations. So that is that. So now let us move on to question 2.2. Let us move on to question 2.2. 2.2 says outline the advantages of intensive strategies. Outline the advantages of intensive strategy. So with that question, we can say with intensive strategies, we can talk about increase in sales. That's the first one, increase in sales. We can also talk about regular sales to existing customers may increase. Regular sales to existing customers may increase. Also, we can talk about still under 2.2. Don't forget, it's still 2.2. We can talk about customer loyalty. Customer loyalty. So we're talking about the intensive strategy, whereby you want to penetrate the market. So you're going to increase sales through what? The aggressive advertising and promotions. Because with intensive strategy, you are trying to sell your existing products to your existing markets. When you're talking about what? Intensive strategies. So you want to penetrate the market. You want more sales. So you're going to increase sales now by making sure that you're going to have what? Aggressive advertising and promotions. They are the ones that are going to boost what? Sales and resulting in higher products. Because with intensive, you are trying by all means. Intensive strategy, you are trying by all means to penetrate what? The market. So for you to penetrate the market, that is why now you're going to make sure that you advertise your products. You make promotions to your existing market. So that will result in higher profits. Now, regular sales to existing customers may increase. That is when you're talking about satisfied customers are likely to buy more products more frequently. So that is why we're saying regular sales to existing customers may increase. So once they are satisfied, they are going to make repeat purchases. Also, customer loyalty, effective promotions. Effective promotion campaigns and quality products encourage customers to keep supporting the business. So if your products are the ones that are attending to the needs of the customers, the customers will remain with what? With such a business. And make sure that the promotions that you're going to make is what? They are very effective. They are very effective. Because with intensive strategy, because you are trying by all means to penetrate what the market, with existing products to existing market, you're going to make use of promotions, advertising, just trying by all means to make sure that the market are going to be aware that you're still existing. Hope we are together. Let us move on to 2.3 now. Let us move on to 2.3 now. Now we are under 2.3. 2.3 read as follows. Mondo manufactures specialize in the production of winter blankets. dispose of their chemical waste from the manufacturing process into local river in order to save costs. So 2.31 says, name the Pastel factor that is applicable to MM in the scenario above. So now we have to come up with what? The Pastel what? Factor in the scenario above. We can read it again. Monroe manufacturers specialize in the production of wind turbines. MM disposes of their chemical waste from the manufacturing process into local river in order to save cost. So now we are asked, name the Pastel factor that is applicable to MM in the scenario above. So the Pastel factor is what? The environmental. Is what? The environmental. Why are we saying that? You can see here when it says MM disposes of their chemical waste from the manufacturing process into the local river in order to save cost. So that is environmental. Business face challenges related to pollution waste disposal. So now let us come to 2.32. Let us come to 2.32. That is that. So 2.32 says, recommend ways in which MM can deal with challenges posed by the Pastel factor named in question 2.31. Ways in which business can deal with environmental challenges. Because that is what the factor, that is the factor that we mentioned in 2.31. So we want to know the ways in which business can deal with the challenges posed by that factor. So that is that. So we can talk about label packages clearly, or we can talk about safe waste disposal. Safe waste disposal. Safe waste disposal. We can talk about recycling measures. We can talk about recycling. Measures. We can talk about label packaging clearly. Label packaging it clearly. We can also talk about sustainable practices. Sustainable practices. So now let's start by the safe waste disposal. So when I talk about safe waste disposal, we are saying implement cost-effective system to dispose of waste properly. Trying by all means to reduce environmental pollution. Trying by all means to reduce environmental pollution. So that is that. But with recycling measures, now we are saying you are going to use recycling process to minimize waste and encourage the reuse of materials. The reuse of materials. That is that. Then the label packaging, clearly, label packaging, clearly, that is business should indicate ingredients and possible side effects on a product labels to protect what consumers. So make sure that sets are going to be labeled clearly. Make sure that the ingredients on the packaging, they are clearly labeled, and even their side effects on a product so as to protect consumers. You can see even on the box of the cigarettes, you see those health warnings. So that is what is advised to do by the businesses. Also, now we're talking about the sustainable practices. So with sustainable practices, this is whereby now you conserve natural resources like using renewable energy and water saving methods. So hope we understand each other. Now we are to move on to another question, which is 2.5. So we are on question 2.4, sorry, not 2.5, which says discuss two types of defensive strategy. Discuss two types of defensive strategies. So we can talk about what divestiture. We can talk about divestiture, whereby we know with this one, this is whereby now we're going to do what selling of deficiency or product lines with slow growth. So if this one you're going to selling product lines with slow growth. Product lines with slow growth. Also under this one, decreasing the number of shareholders. Decreasing the number of shareholders. Decreasing the number of shareholders by selling what? Ownership. By selling ownership. Also, we can talk about another type of defensive strategy. We are still on 2.4, whereby now we can talk about retrenchment. Retrenchment. So under retrenchment, you can talk about whether we are saying you are terminating the employment contracts. Terminating employment contracts. Terminating employment contracts. And also you can talk about decreasing the number of product lines. Decreasing the number of product lines. So now we can talk about this divestiture, whereby we have said you are selling of divisions of product lines with slow growth potential. This way, we say business remove parts that are not profitable. We are removing those parts that are not profitable. You can talk about, let's come up with an example of a cell phone company sells its tablet division because of low sales. You see that tablets, they give you nothing. Their sales are very low. So you are to sell that. That is why you remove that parts that are not profitable. So that is why we are saying you are selling products with slow growth, but now decreasing the number of shareholders by selling what? The ownership now. This is where you are reducing investors to streamline control. You are reducing what? Investors to streamline what? Control. Example, a family business buys back shares from small investors to keep control within what? Within the family. Hope we are together on that. Now coming to retrenchment, where now you are to terminate employment contracts or letting go of employees for operational reasons. That is where you cut stuff to reduce cost. You're going to cut your stuff to try by all means what? To reduce what? To reduce cost. You are cutting your stuff to reduce what? Cost. So whereby now we can talk about a factory release of 200 workers due to decline in demand. So if the demand is declining, so it means the sales now are going to be low. So you're forced to try by all means to downsize your stuff now. So now coming to the decreasing the number of product lines still under retrenchment. This is whereby now we're saying, yeah, you are saying now you are shrinking operations to save money now because now you are decreasing the number of product lines or closing departments leading to redundancy now. So you are shrinking operations to save money. So a supermarket chain closes its bakery section, making bakery staff redundant. So that is that. So that is that. The other one is what? It's liquidation. So you can also still under as one of the type of what? Liquidation also was under what? Defensive strategy. Though we were asked to, but we have also what? Liquidation. So liquidation, this is whereby now you are trying to sell the entire business so as to pay your shareholders a fair price for their shares. So you are trying to sell the entire business. So that is that. Or you are selling all assets so that you can pay your creditors due to lack of capital. So that is under liquidation. So now let us move on to 2.5. Let us move on to 2.5 now. So 2.5, now we are to read last suppliers. Yeah, last suppliers. Last suppliers. So we are saying last suppliers implemented the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act. That is BBEE 2003, Act of 53 of 2003. They promoted Sandile to a senior executive position to serve on their board of directors. So now we are asked under 2.51, name the pillar of the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act, BBEE 2003, Act 53 of 2003, applied by LS in the scenario above. So that is what? Management control. That is under management control. That is management control because we are told that they promoted Sandile to a senior executive position. So remember with this act, this is where we are saying we make sure that even the black people who were excluded in the past, we are doing what you call affirmative action. Those previously disadvantaged people, now they can even access even those senior positions. So that is management control. 2.52, describe the purpose of the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act 2003, Act 53 of 2003. So now we are to give what? The purpose of the BBA. So we can say it enables wealth to spread more broadly. This act, it enables wealth to spread more broadly. Enables wealth to spread more broadly across all population groups. Across all population groups. So the wealth will be spread more broadly as all people, regardless of their race, they are going to be as well accommodated to all levels that are there in the workplace. It also allows for development of codes of good practices. Allows for the development of codes of good practice. Of codes of good practice. Also, we can talk about it as well, outline the areas that will give the government a platform of bringing equitable spread of wealth. Yes, we are saying is going to outline areas, that will give a government a platform. That will give a government a platform. A platform for doing what? For bring equitable spread of life. So that is that. So now let us come to 2.6 now. Let's come to 2.6. 2.6 read as follows. Explain ways in which business can comply with Consumer Protection Act, CPA 2003, 8, Act of 68 of 2008. So we are to explain ways in which business can comply with this act, CPA, Consumer Protection Act. So the first one, you are to disclose the prices of all products on sale. Disclose prices for all products on sale. For all products on sale. So as an organization, make sure that all the products that are on sale are disclosed. So don't hide any of them. Also, you can as well conduct adequate training to staff or stakeholders on CPA. You conduct enough training. Conduct adequate training. Adequate training. Right? Adequate training to staff on CPA. To staff on CPA. So you make sure that you provide or conduct adequate training to staff stakeholders on CPA. So train them so that they can know what are the requirements of this act, Consumer Protection Act. So your employees, they have to make sure that they know fully about that so that they can put it into practice. That is very important. Also ensure that goods or services offered are standardized of the same quality. The products or goods that you're going to offer are standardized of the same quality. Also, you can comply with the requirements regarding promotional competitions. That is very important. Also, you can comply with the requirements or the requirements regarding the display of information on labels as well as on packaging. That is how you can comply with this Act, Consumer Protection Act. 2.7 now, where it says discuss the impact of Labor Relations Act. LRA 1995 Act 66 of 1995 on business. So the act of what? Labor Relation Act. So when you want the impact, you know we're talking about either advantages or the disadvantages of this act. So that is 2.7. So with 2.7, I would like us to write it here. Yes, now we are going to talk about, for space sake, I'll write it here, whereby we are first going to start by the positives. Positives or advantages of what? The Labor Relation Act. Remember, we're talking about what? LRA. So the positives with this act, it promotes healthy relationship. Promotes healthy relationship between employer and employees. Between employer and employees. That is that. It allows a very good relationship, healthy relationship between the two. Protect the rights of the business. Protects the rights of the business in labor relations issues. In labor relations issues. Also, labor disputes are settled quicker. Labor disputes are settled quicker. Labor disputes are settled quicker and are less expensive. That is that. That is that. Now we are to come to the drawbacks now, the disadvantages, whereby now we're talking about what? The negative part. So now we're going to talk about the negatives. So with negative, which is now a disadvantages, we can talk about what? Productivity may increase. Productivity may decrease. if employees are allowed to participate, if employees are allowed to participate in the activities of trade unions. In the activities of trade unions during work time. During work time. So that is that. During work time. So that is that. Also, cost of labor increases because of legal strikes. Cost of labor increases they are going to increase because of legal strikes. Because of legal strikes. So that is that. So another point that we may include here, employers may not dismiss employees at will. Employers may not dismiss employees at their will. So employers may not dismiss employees at their will. That is that. So that is that, as procedures have to be followed because they are to follow the procedures. So now let us move on to 2.8 now. 2.8 talks about advise business on the strategic management processes. Advise business on the strategic management process. We know for sure that as you under this strategic management process, we have option 1 and option 2 when we are to answer this question. But let's start with, let's talk about option 1, where first point you can say, have a clear mission statement. Have a clear mission statement. With clear mission statement, that is, you are going to have a clear mission statement, vision, measurable or realistic objectives in place. Also, you can talk about vision. We can as well talk about realistic objectives. Realistic objectives in place. That is one of the management strategic process. Also, identify opportunities, weakness, strengths, first by conducting environmental scanning. So you conduct what? Environmental scanning. Environmental scanning. So you're going to do environmental scanning by making sure that you're going to make use of SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, where we are talking about you are going to identify opportunities, weakness, strengths, and threats by conducting environmental scanning or situational analysis. That is that. And then also you are going to make sure that tools available for mental scanning. You are going to make sure that tools are available, that the tools are available for environmental scanning. So tools, we are talking about SWOT, talking about Pestel, talking about Pestel. That is that. We're talking about POTAS 5. POTAS 5 model. So those are the tools that you're going to make sure that they are available to help you to scan the environment. So now we are to move on to question 3. We are to move on to question 3. To move on to question 3. So here is our question 3. So now let us attend to question 3. So question 3 is under business operations. 3.1, state any 4 sources of internal recruitment. Sources of internal recruitment. That is whereby now we are recruiting what? Internally. So we want to know the sources of internal recruitment. So we are going to have what? The notice of the business. Notice of the business. So business will let their employees within the organization through the notices, through the notice boards. Also, word of mouth can also work. Word of mouth. So they can just tell them verbally that there is a vacant position, so that as well can also work. Also, they can do internal emails. Do the internal emails to their staff. Internal emails. So when we talk about internal emails, we can talk about intranet websites to staff members. Also, they can as well do what? They can make what? Circulars to staff. Can do circulars to staff. You can do circulars to staff or make use of business new letters. So that is that. Also, it can also be through what? Recommendation. The recommendation of current employees. Of current employees. So that is that. So now we are moving on to 3.2. Outline the role of interviewer before the interview. The role of what? Interview. So the person is going to conduct what? The interview. Before the interview. So you book and prepare the venue of the interview. You book the venue or prepare what? The book and prepare the venue of the interview. That is that. Also, you are going to inform all shortlisted candidates about the date and place. Inform candidates. You inform candidates about the date. About the date. About the date and the place. And the place of the interview. Place of the interview. So that is that. Also, the other ones that we can add on the two that were required, you are going to set the date and ensure that all the interviews takes place on the same date if possible. So that is that. Also, you're going to notify the panel members conducting the interview about the date and place of what? Of the interview. That is as well very important. Also, the interviewer should develop a core set of questions based on the skills and knowledge and ability that is required. So that is that. So this was for 3.2. Sorry for to write it there. This was for 3.2. These answers are for 3.2. I was supposed to write them here, but that was just a mistake. So to add more there, we can say, like we have said, notify all panel members. All panel members conducting the interview about the date. About the date and place of interview. And place of interview. So you're going to notify all panel members conducting the interview about the date and place of interview. So now let us move on to question 3.3. Let us move on to question 3.3. So question 3.3, there is a scenario that is given under 2B logistics, which is TL. 2B logistics drafted an employment contract for Thabo, a newly appointed transport supervisor. Management explained the terms and conditions of the employment contract to him. Thabo was given an opportunity to read the contract before signing it. TL, which is 2B Logistics, also highlighted the reasons why an employment contract could be terminated. So now we are to answer the question starting from 3.31. Quote two legal requirements of employment contract from the scenario above. So under the employment contracts, then we have to quote two requirements of what? Of an employment contract. Of an employment contract. Management explained terms and conditions of employment contract to him. Management explained the terms and conditions of employment contract to him. So that is the first code that we can talk about. Also, Thabo was given opportunity to read through the contract before signing it. Thabo was given an opportunity to read the contract before signing. So that is our second code. So that is that our 3.31 where we were asked to code. So that is this one and as well as this one. First one, management explained the terms and conditions of employment contract to him. The second one, Thabo was given an opportunity to read the contract before signing it. So those are the two legal requirements of employment contract from the scenario above. 3.32. Advise the business on the reasons for the termination of an employment contract. Advise business on the termination of an employment contract. So reasons for the termination of employment contract. The employer may dismiss an employee for valid reasons. The employer may dismiss an employee for valid reasons. For valid reasons such as unsatisfactory job performance or maybe because of what? Misconduct or because of misconduct. Employer may no longer have work for redundant employee or cannot fulfill the contract and is restructured. The employer may retrench some more employees due to insolvency or may not be able to pay the employees. So we say employer may not be able to pay employees. Employer may be not. Employer may not be able. May not be able may not be able to pay employees. So that is that. The employer may not be able to pay what? To pay employees. Or employees may decide to leave or resign voluntarily for better jobs. So that is that. It can be through voluntary of the employees. Maybe they want to go or they are looking now for cleaner pastures. So you see. Or the employer may no longer have work for redundant employees. So that is that. So now let us move on to 3.4. Let us move on to 3.4, where it says, discuss the implications of employment equity, EE, 1998, Act 55 of 1998, on the human resource, the implications of the employment equity on the human resource function. So that is that. So let us just take it up. So now we are to talk about implications of Employment Equity Act on human resource. So this one we are going to say offer equal pay for work of equal pay. Offer equal pay for work of equal value. So for employees who are working the very same way, make sure that you are going to pay them same salary. That is that. Also, ensure that affirmative action promote diversity in the workplace. Ensure that affirmative action promotes diversity in the workplace. Promotes diversity in the workplace. So you make sure that the affirmative action whereby everyone is going to be included there. So you are going to include everyone in the workplace, regardless of the race, regardless of gender, age. So make sure that you are going to put that into practice. Also, we can talk about the human resource manager must treat employees fairly. Human manager must treat what? Employees fairly. Treat employees fairly. So the human resource manager must treat employees fairly and promote and provide equal opportunities in the workplace. So that is that. Also, another thing is still under making sure that the Employment Equity Act is there and is going to be put into practice, wherever we are trying to discuss the implications of it, is that you compile employment equity plans that indicate how they will implement affirmative actions. So businesses are to compile what employment equity plans that will show how they are going to implement it. So they are to submit that employment equity plan to SETAs. So that is that as well. 3.5, outline the benefits of good quality management. Outline the benefits of good quality management system. That is 3.5. So here we are going to talk about time and resources are used efficiently. That is when time and resources are used efficiently. Time and resources are used efficiently. That is also when productivity increases through proper time. Productivity increases through proper time management. Through proper time management or using high quality resources. So these are the benefits of good quality management. This is why we know very for sure that time and resources are going to be used efficiently. Productivity is going to increase through the proper time management. Also, we can talk about products or services are constantly improved, resulting in increased levels of customer satisfaction. So under good quality management, the products or services, they are all going to be improved, and that will increase what? The customer satisfaction. Also, the vision and mission or business goals may be achieved under good quality management system. Also, the employers and employees will have a healthy working relationship, resulting in happy and productive workers. So now let us move on to 3.16. 3.6, VECT 3.6. So under 3.6, we are given a scenario. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. We have what? Musa Limited. Musa Limited sells storage containers to small businesses. So Musa Limited continuously updates their bookkeeping records to ensure that their tax payments to South African revenue, which is SARS, is timeless and accurate. So now we are asked in 3.61, identify the business function that is applicable to Musa Limited in the scenario above. You have to identify business function. So that is 3.61. 3.61. That is what? Financial function. Financial function. As they are continuously updating their booking records to ensure that their tax payments of South African revenue is timeless and accurate. So that is what financial function. Then now it reads as well, says, explain other quality indicators of the business function identified in question 3.61. Explain other quality indicators of the business function identified in 3.61, which is what? Financial function. So other quality indicators under financial function. So we are going to talk about, we are going to obtain capital from most suitable, available, and reliable sources. Obtain capital from reliable sources. Obtain capital from most reliable sources. Reliable sources. So we can obtain capital from most suitable or available reliable sources. Also, you can be able to negotiate better interest. Negotiate better interest. Negotiate better interest in order to keep the financial cost down. In order to keep financial cost down, you negotiate the better interest so as to keep what? Financial cost down. To keep financial cost down. So as to keep financial costs down. Also, we can talk about you are going to analyze strategy to increase profit. You are going to analyze strategies to increase profit. So that is that. You're going to analyze strategies to increase profit. Also, still under the quality indicators are under financial function. We can draw up budgets to ensure sufficient application of monetary resources. So now we're moving on to 3.7. We're moving on to 3.7. 3.7, I read as follows. Discuss the impact of total client customer satisfaction as a total quality management, which is TQM element on large business. So we are to discuss impact of total client or customer satisfaction element on large business. So that is that. So we know very well that large businesses are going to use market research surveys. They are going to use what? They are going to use market research surveys. Large businesses are going to use market research or customer surveys to measure or monitor customer satisfaction. To monitor customer satisfaction. So that is that. Large business use market research or customer surveys to measure or monitor customer satisfaction or reaction time to changing consumer demands or analyze customers' needs. Also, we are going to talk about continuously promote positive business image. They continuously promote what? Promote a positive business image. Promote a positive business image. So they are going to continuously promote a positive self-image. They are not self-positive business image. Also may achieve a state of total customer satisfaction. May achieve total customer satisfaction. So also may achieve total customer satisfaction if business follows sound business practice that incorporates all stakeholders. That is that. Also, they are going to ensure that cross-functional teams understand their core competencies. Their core competencies and develop and strengthen it. Also may lead to higher customer retention, loyalty, and business may be able to charge higher prices. That is because of what? Satisfaction. You know very well your customers are satisfied. So that will enable you to even charge higher prices because you know with services, quality products that you are giving them, so the customers are going to remain with the business. So that is that. So now let us move on to 3.8. 3.8. 3.8. So 3.8 read as follows. Recommend ways in which total quality management can reduce what? The cost quality. Can reduce what? Cost quality. So the first one we are going to talk about, introduce quality cycle. Introduce quality cycle to discuss ways of improving what? To discuss ways of improving the quality of their workmanship. That is that. Also, schedule activities. Schedule activities. Schedule activities to eliminate duplication of tasks. To eliminate duplication of tasks. Duplication of tasks. So you schedule activities so that you're going to get rid of what? The duplication of tasks. That is another way of whereby you are going to reduce cost quality. Also, you are to train employees at all levels. Train employees at all levels. At all levels. So that everyone understands their roles in quality management. Also, you can develop work systems. Develop work systems. Develop work systems that empower employees. That empower employees to find new ways of improving quality. Find new ways of improving quality. So that is that. So now we are to move on to question 4. We are to move on to question 4. So here is our question 4. As it reads as follows, question 4, business environments. Name 4 provisions of the Basic Conditions Employment Act, BCEA 1997, Act 75 of 1997. So we are to name what? We are to name 4 provisions of this act. So we are going to talk about regulation of working time, ordinary hours of work, overtime, meal intervals, rest periods, Sunday work, or public holidays. So with this one, we're going to talk about regulation of working time. So that is when we are talking about the ordinary hours of work, overtime, meal intervals, the rest period, Sunday work, public holidays. That is what the regulation of what? Of working time. Also, we can talk about the leaves. We can talk about leaves. So leaves, we are talking about annual sick leave, family, responsibility, maternity leave, paternity, parental. So also falls under the leaves. So those are the professions as well. It is also a profession of Basic Conditions Employment Act. Also, under the profession, we can talk about termination of employment. We can talk about termination of employment. Termination of employment, prohibition of employment, prohibition of employment, that is showing you doing of children and forced labor, of children and forced labor. So now we are moving on to 4.2. Outline the rights of consumers. Outline the rights of consumers in terms of National Credit Act, NCA 2005 Act 34, 2005. We want to know the rights of consumers. So the consumers can apply for credit and to be free from discrimination. They can apply, that is their right to apply for credit. Apply for credit and to be free from discrimination. And to be free from discrimination. Also, obtain reasons for credit being refused. Obtain reasons for credit being refused. So that is that. Also, consumers are to have fair and responsible marketing by credit provider. Fair marketing and responsible by the credit provider. So here we are talking about fair marketing by what? By credit provider. So those are the rights of consumers. So there are many. We can even talk about they can receive pre-agreement documentation or credit code that is valid for 7 days. Also, consumers can apply for debt review or canceling if the consumers cannot afford to pay their debts. So the business is the one, that can apply for debt review, canceling if the consumers cannot afford to pay their debts. Also receive information in plain and understandable language. Now we're talking about consumers. They are to receive information that is very clear, with the language that is very clear. So hope we get on that. Now we are moving on to the scenario that is given. Read the scenario below and answer the questions. Here, the scenario: shoe boutique. A shoe boutique. A shoe boutique implemented a strategy aimed at improving the customer service due to a decrease in sales. The management of the SB evaluated if their strategy had been effective. SB examined the underlying basis of the strategy throughout the implementation process. They also analyzed the impact of the implementing strategy on their external environment. So the questions that follows that quote 2 steps in the strategy evaluation implemented by SB from the scenario above. So you have to quote what? 2 steps in strategy evaluation implemented by Shoe Boutique from the scenario above. That is 4.31. SB examine the underlying basis. SB, which is this one. SB examine the underlying basis of their strategy throughout the implementation process. So that is that. That is our first proof of what? Evaluation strategy. They were able to examine the underlying basis of the strategy through the implementation process. Also, they analyze the impact of implemented strategy. They also analyze the impact of implemented strategy on their internal and external environment. So that is our code 2. So that is our 4.31, where we were asked to quote from the scenario. 4.2 to explain other steps in strategy evaluation. Other steps in strategy evaluation is 4.32. Other steps in that look, that is look forward and backward. Look forward and backward into implementation process. Into implementation process. Into implementation process. Into implementation process. Another one, compare expected performance with equal performance. Compare expected performance with actual performance. So now we have to move on to question 4.4. Now we are under question 4.4, which says, advise listeners on how they could apply the power of suppliers. The power of suppliers is the cost of podcast 5 versus model to analyze the position in the market environment. So this one we are Lambda port has 5 modules, wherever we have to talk about what the power of supplier. I think that this is where we are going to say assess the power of suppliers, the power of suppliers in influencing prices, in influencing the prices. It influences the prices. Also, the more powerful suppliers, the less control the business has over them. The more powerful suppliers, more powerful suppliers, the less control the business. The less control the business has over them. So that is that. Now we are moving on to 4.5. 4.5 replace full of statement. Any four aspects that should be included in the employment contract. Aspect that should be included in the employment contract. So the first one is the personal details. Personal details of the employer. Of the employer. Job title. Job title. The hours of work. Hours of work. The hours of work, such as normal time as well as overtime. Also, we can talk about what? Remuneration. Remuneration. We are talking about what now? The compensation payment, such as weekly or monthly pay. So now let us move on to 4.6. So under 4.6, we are to read now the scenario. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Then we have what in Pemba construction, MC. The Pemba construction compiled job analysis for the vacant position of project manager. So MC indicated that applicants must have a diploma in construction. A successful candidate will compile the progress reports on assigned projects. So now the question is identify two components of job analysis. Identify two components of a job analysis used in MC. And then you are to motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. That is 4.6. That is 4.6. So it says Use the table below is a guide to answer question 4.6. So we are going to try by all means to identify two components of job analysis. So we are going to have job specification, job specification. So now we have to code the job specification that we're talking about. MC indicated that applicants must have a diploma in construction. So you know that job specification is all about qualifications, skills that the applicant has. So that is that. What we want MC indicate that applicants must have diploma in construction. So that is that. That is our first vote. That is our first vote. Also, we have what job description. Description. Now let's code it. The successful candidate. The successful candidate will compile progress reports on assigned projects. That is a job what description. That is the task or the duty that is going to be performed by what? The successful candidate. So that is our second code. So these are our motivation that we're asked to do. These are our motivations. So the first one, MC indicate that applicants must have diploma in construction. That is our first motivation. The successful candidates will compile progress reports on assigned projects. That is, those are the duties or the duty that is going to be performed by a successful candidate. So that is our motivation too. So let us move on to 4.7 now. Let us be on 4.7. 4.7 to just was explain the role of quality cycle. The role of quality cycle as part of continuous improvement. Very important, continuous improvement to processes and systems. So you have to explain the role of quality cycle as a part of continuous improvement. That is what it says. Solve problems related to quality. We are going to say solve problems related to quality. And implement what? The improvements. Also, we are going to talk about other point can be investigate problems, investigate problems and suggest solutions to management. And suggest solutions to management. And the other one, it can be ensure that there is no duplication of activities. Ensure that there is no duplication of activities. So that there is no duplication of activities, task in the workplace. The workplace. So these are the answers for 4.7. So now we have to move on to 4.8. Which read as follows: advise business on the quality indicators of the general function. Advise business on the quality indicators of general function. That is 4.8 of question 4. So this is monitor effective strategic plans. Monitor effective strategic plans. Strategic plans. Also, understand the changes in the business environment on an ongoing basis. Understand. You are to understand. You are to make sure that you are going to be able to understand. We are saying understand changes in the business environment on ongoing businesses. So also you are to as well effectively communicate shared vision. Effectively communicate shared vision, mission, and values. Mission and values. So that is the end of this presentation. Make sure that you are going to share with others and make sure that you are not going to forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you very much. Make sure that you're going to use this presentation as a guide to help you to be well prepared for the coming examination that you're going to sit on in November. Thank you very much.